Wriggling is a coiling and uncoiling behavior of a larva or a worm's body. It is a characteristic movement of the Chironomids, as shown in this video clip, as well as the annelids, the aquatic worms, both of which the San Juan worm emulates. The bobberstop worm is tied in this video is a San Juan worm variant designed to simulate this wriggling behavior by using tungsten beads to weight the ends of the worm body that is built on a flexible braid, much like the bolus weapon used in South America, which takes rocks on the end of the cords to immobilize prey. The thinking is that when a bolus-weighted fly encounters an obstacle, like a rock when the fly is presented using bottom bouncing, the weighted ends can bounce off of that obstacle or tend to wrap around it, producing a wriggling-like action. So we're trying the bobberstop worm today, which is a variant of the San Juan worm. It uses bobberstops to give increased segmentation and flexibility in the fly because I use braid. I use a 10-pound braid. We'll go as low as 6. The trade-off is 6 is less durable and the 10 is stiffer. So if you like the extended look of the San Juan, then you probably want to go with the stiffer material. If you want a real flexy, noodly fly, then you go with the lighter and lighter braids. So to start off, we just take a 10-inch piece of the braid and we're going to fold it over and tie in a surgeon's loop, improved surgeon's loop. Any knot that gives you a big clump of thread at the base here, it will work because we're just going to jam a tungsten bead against it. So we tie it up your knot, 3-turn improved surgeons, and pull it, tighten it. Like that. All right, and then we cut it off a little long because the crane flies, for example, have little gills out there and one end called Circe. So these would emulate that, like that. All right, then we, I want to show you that. All right, then we gonna thread on a bead. This is a 2-millimeter bead that we thread down to here, and it jams up against there, like that. And this is going to be the bolas-like weight on the end of the wing of the, or arm of the worm. And we take a bobber stop and we thread it on like that, throw the wire away because they get everywhere in the room, and we're going to repeat that 7 times. What you end up with this, and you're going to want 2 of these. So on to the next step. So I've completed the 2 arms here, and I've put a Mustad 948/40 hook, size 8, in the vise, crushed down the barb so I could get the bead on, and then I've started with some 50 denier nano silk. This is a 3.2 millimeter bead that has a pretty big hole on it. Some of the beads have pretty small holes, but since we're going to thread through these arm assemblies, we want a bead with a fairly large hole, or else you could have a little trouble getting the braid through. But this goes well. And then we back the bead up, take our second arm, feed that through, like that, tie it off, and then we come back one bobber stop, and we tie off again. This will increase the stability of the fly, and it gives you a sort of a body that's immobile along the hook shank. And then we flip over tie some here. And pull on the thread, see? And I've tightened it all up. It's tightened up quite nicely now. And I come across again one bobber stop with my thread, get the braid up, and tie that off. Okay, now we're going to start. Now we come up to whip finish. The thread. Sorry about that bump on the camera. And we're going to cut off the rear one and the yarn, the thread, like that. Trim this up a little bit more. And now we're going to glue it. I like the UV Solar Res UV setting. And we make sure to get some in the eye of the bead, that is. We don't want to get it in the eye of the hook. Really. Nothing worse than being on the middle of a stream and have a glued up eye. Especially if it's a number 24 and you can't decide if you're getting to tip it through the hook eye anyway. Opening. Okay. Arrange it. Get it arranged, and then we'll set it. So there you have it, a bobber stop worm. Bobber stops come in a wide range of shapes, colors, and sizes. The ones in the upper row shown here are non-luminescent, but they come in mostly football shapes, except the ones in the upper right-hand corner are cylinders. So you could do perhaps like a leech-like thing on braid with some mobility. The bobber stops on the lower line are luminescent and provide an interesting way to make flies with superpowers that glow in the dark or in dim, say, muddy conditions. So luminous bobber stops can be used to make flies that glow in the dark or under dim conditions, like a muddy stream. In particular, I use these flies, the Lumen Caddis and the Lumen crane, on the North Platte during the spring flush when they actually increase the flow to the point where it lifts the silt off the spawning beds and the stream becomes extremely muddy. And as it clears, though, the fish are hungry, and if you have a fly that they can see early on, they're going to hit it. And so this Lumen Caddis was tied for the North Platte, as well as the Lumen crane, as you'll see in the next slide. Lumen crane, as well as the Lumen Caddis, are tied by sliding on a bead onto a keel hook, and then behind that we either put a turn of black hackle in the case of the caddis, or in the crane we dub over the top with a dark peacock looking dubbing. Then we slide on 4 or 5 of the luminous bobber stops, and behind it all, at the hook bend, we tie in a ball of thread that's cemented in place just to hold the whole assembly together. Just one last note that the football shape of the bobber stop just screamed terrestrial fly to me, and it's pretty easy to assemble various ants and beetles and such, given that shape, which is just evokes beetles and ants to me. All right, have fun out there fishing.